You guys hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes, Dennis, I can hear you.
All right, thank you.
My audio working?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me okay, Amy?
Yes, Alicia, I hear you.
Okay.
or something. Test, test, test. Test. No, no. Huh?
Class 1, 2, 3, class. You hear it on that? You say class 2. I'm gonna try and write it down with him being muted. Keep his Zoom muted.
Turn it on and have them try. I did. Say test. It's not on. It is on, might be on. Turn that one off again. Raga? Trustee Benford?
Here.
Trustee Oliver? Trustee Burgess?
Present.
Yes.
If you called me, I can barely hear.
We can barely hear.
I can barely hear him too.
Okay, I'll speak louder.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Supervisor George, I have some changes to the agenda. Can you hear me? Because I can barely hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, so I am requesting the change that trustee Raga and I submitted when we asked for this item added to the agenda. Under new business, the presentation by ABC Community Builders, we asked for discussion about the proposed grant application with possible board action. That is one change. The next one, you can strike item B, presentation of heart organization grant application, discussion with possible board action, because it appears that there is now a resolution on the agenda. So there is no need to have that listed twice on the agenda. And under executive session minutes, under executive session, trustee Raga and I, this is our third request. We are asking to add closed session meeting minutes and recordings to the February 15th item, to the September 15th item, and to the December 4th item.
Okay, the executive session, we, in the agenda, fought for legal counsel. And
There's a motion on the floor, Supervisor George, there's a motion on the floor.
Yes, okay. Any discussion? No, is there a second?
I'll second it. Trustee Raga.
Raga? Discussion?
I'm gonna call for division.
Again, no discussion?
I called for division.
Okay. And we have a
Just
vote.
if I may quickly interject on this, just the board is free to amend the agenda at this point to reflect whatever it wants, but at the same time, I do need to caution the board that if there was items on that are being added to the agenda that weren't posted within the 48 hours for compliance with the Open Meetings Act, then any action on that item would not be valid. To the extent that anything requested does go beyond what is on the agenda, that's just something to be cautious about. We can go through that on a per item basis, I suppose, as the meeting unfolds, but just wanted to raise that so the board's aware.
And I've called for division.
Trustee Raga?
I've called for division.
Right. Okay, will you explain the divisions he's calling for?
I cannot hear you, Supervisor George.
Ross,
I said I called for division.
Attorney Ross, will you explain the divisions he's calling for?
The what? I can't hear.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can hear you very well, Supervisor George.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Would you like for me to explain to you, Supervisor George, what I'm asking for?
Yeah, okay, Trustee Benford, you can go ahead and explain that. Okay. Can anybody hear me?
Now we can.
Trustee Benford wanted to explain the division, and I want you, Russ, to explain it after her. Trustee Benford, go ahead.
I called for division, which means we can take each part separately and vote on each item separately and not together.
So which item do you want to vote first?
So that means we would first vote on my first request, which is under new business, item A.
On the new business, item A. ABC Community Builders and discussion about proposed grant application.
That is correct. So would you like me to discuss that part first?
Right.
Okay. Prior to you joining the board, Supervisor George, the board passed a motion that will allow 2 trustees to add an item to the agenda. For the past 2 months, Trustee Raga and I have submitted this agenda item on time, and we have submitted the item stating that we wanted it placed on the agenda for discussion with possible board action. And each time this item is placed on the agenda, the words "with possible board action" has been removed from this item. On last Friday, I had an hour-long conversation with our legal counsel to find out why that is continuing to happen, because last month when you did it, you blamed it on the attorney. I am at a loss right now as to why this item was added to the agenda again, and you unilaterally removed "with possible board action" after Trustee Raga and I submitted it in a timely manner, asking to have it placed on there with possible board action. Now, obviously, if the board doesn't vote for it, that's fine, but 2 trustees have followed the proper procedures and asked to have the item placed on the agenda. So the question would be, 1, why are you continuing to take away our power and remove "with possible board action" when we are following the proper procedure? And that is why we're asking to add that information back on for this particular agenda item. This is our 3rd time asking to have that added back. So unless we're doing something wrong, if you could explain it in this open meeting, we just want to get it resolved so that we don't continue to do this every month.
Last time it was a mistake. That's all. Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Benford, presentation by ABC, community builders, and discussion of the full grant and possible board action.
It's very hard to hear you, Supervisor George.
We have a motion, presentation by ABC Community Builders and discussion about proposed grant application and possible board action. Can I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Raga. Trustee Raga.
You call on me? If you call on me, it's yes.
Hello?
Okay, Trustee Benford. Trustee Benford. Trustee Benford.
Yes,
Trustee Burgess.
No,
Supervisor George.
No? Trustee Rogers vote? Yes. Okay. So that motion died. Okay, here's another, Trustee Benford, there's another motion you want to make? Trustee Benford? Can you hear me?
yes.
What's your next motion?
I've called for division. Do you want me to help you through the entire motion? You would move on to item B, which is well, we're striking the next one, which is the presentation of the Heart Organization grant. Because it's already on the agenda, so it suggested that we strike that one.
Roll call, please.
Motion to strike. Raga.
Yes.
Trustee Benford. Trustee Benford.
Yes,
Trustee Burgess. Trustee Burgess.
no,
Trustee George.
Yeah, I'm striking, yes. Trustee Benford, is that all the motions?
no, Supervisor George, I called for division of my original motion. So my original motion dealt with several items. The next item would be consideration and approval to release the February 15th, 2019 closed meeting minutes. It follows the exact same question that I had before, which again, 2 trustees asked to have this item placed on the agenda. This is the 3rd time that Trustee Raga and I have asked to have the item placed on the agenda, asking to have the closed meeting minutes and recording released. Each time this item has been placed on the agenda, the recording part has been removed. So the question that I'm asking you again, as the supervisor, is if Trustee Raga and I have submitted this within the time frame that was requested and agreed upon by the board, and you unilaterally changed our agenda request. So we are asking again to have it changed to what we originally requested. On this board, we all have the same weighted vote. We're all elected to office to serve the residents of the township. When you make a decision to take away our power, you are taking away our ability to represent the 70,000 residents of this township. We were elected, Supervisor George, and we're asking you to allow us to serve our elected duties. So each time you make a decision on your own, you take away our ability to serve our constituents. And you've done this for 3 months. And I have asked you to just answer the question of why you will not allow us to place the items on the agenda.
The item you're talking about, it was placed on the agenda by legal counsel. I seek the advice of the legal counsel, and the legal counsel told me how to be placed, how should I place it on the agenda?
I asked you about that regarding the very first item, and you did not respond.
We're talking about the third item now, right?
And what about the job training program? You don't feel residents need jobs in our community? Because you failed to answer that question. Trustee Raga and I want to serve the residents as well.
Okay, in November, we approved a job readiness program for $4,000. And I would like to see how that work out before I jump into another job program. Okay? I have no problem with, the job readiness program we're talking about is $77,000 for 10 people. $7,000 and $700 for each individual. And the program seems to be a very good program. But like I said, we voted in November for a job readiness program for $4,000. So I'd like to see how this work out before I jump into another program.
Well, that's nice that you want to share with us how you feel. However, it's actually not 10 people, and we're not at the point where we're discussing that on the agenda. We just wanted to have with possible board action, should the board decide to take action. If the board chooses not to, that's fine. All we are asking for is to have the items placed on the agenda the way that we submit them, because we represent the residents just like you do. That is all we're asking for. I don't think that that is an unreasonable request, considering this entire board voted unanimously for that to happen. So I will move along to the next item. Consideration, because since these motions are already on the floor, we might as well continue. Consideration and possible approval to release the September 15th, 2020 closed meeting minutes and recording.
Is there a motion by Trustee Benford? Second?
Second, Trustee Raga.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
trustee Benford,
Yes.
trustee Burgess,
No.
trustee George.
No. The next item, Trustee Benford?
Yes, the last one, consideration and possible approval to release December 4th, 2020 closed meeting minutes and recording. That was my final requested change.
Do we have a second?
Second, trustee Raga.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
Trustee Benford?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, clerk. Yes.
Supervisor George,
no,
I'm sorry. Mr. Burgess, okay, no. And Supervisor George.
No. Is that, Trustee Benford, is that your, final motion?
Yes, that was it.
Okay. I have one motion to, I'd like to strike item B, approval of December 4th, 2020 special meeting on advice of the legal counsel. This item is in litigation.
I believe you need an approval of the agenda, Supervisor George.
Yes. So approval of the agenda. We have a motion.
so moved.
Trustee Burgess,
Second,
trustee Benford, second.
Trustee Raga,
Yes, and it's very hard to hear you. You have to speak up, please.
Trustee Benford,
yes, it is. It's very hard to hear you.
Trustee Burgess,
What was that?
Trustee Burgess,
Yes,
Supervisor George,
yes. Motion carried. Okay, next item on the agenda. Approval of minutes. Item A, approval of November 17, 2020 regular board meeting minutes. You have a motion?
so moved.
Trustee Burgess? Second? Supervisor George? Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
Trustee Benford,
Yes,
Trustee Burgess,
Yes,
Yes. Item C, approval of December 15, 2020 regular board meeting minutes.
so moved.
Trustee Burgess? Motion?
Second.
Trustee Raga, second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
Trustee Benford,
yes.
Trustee Burgess,
Yes,
and Supervisor George.
Yes.
I have a point of parliamentary inquiry. What, you skipped over item B. Was there a motion to table that I missed?
Yes, you did. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, because it's hard to hear, so I apologize.
I'm sorry. Okay. Item D, approval of January 19, 2021 regular board meeting minutes.
so moved.
Trustee Burgess,
Second.
trustee Raga, second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
Trustee Benford,
Yes,
Yes,
Yes. Okay, the next item is the supervisor's report. Brief, Short report. Good evening, residents of DuPage Township. As your supervisor, I can tell you, social media can be brutal at times, because there's a lot of fake profiles, fake allegations, and downright lies. This board appointed me, Felix George, about 2 years ago this month, to be the supervisor. My job was to get written policies and procedures in place. And over the past 2 years, we have accomplished that goal. We have had many ups and downs as a board. Some board members apparently have their own agendas. All have witnessed these meetings, and the proof was at the Republican caucus. We had multiple complaints filed with the Attorney General's office. And we had lawsuits filed by the board members against the township. Well, legal bills are again approaching close to $100,000. Instead of working as a team, some members have allowed personal vendettas to destroy the township goodwill. When I was appointed, this board had a clear direction on moving forward, but slowly we began to go backwards. Because I would not take part in the personal vendettas being brought to the meeting by some board members. As supervisor, I chose to move forward. In doing this, I have been and will continue to make sure that the proper policies and procedures are followed. An audit from Magnum Associates made recommendations for written policies and procedures. We have since adopted many policies and procedures. We have department head purchasing policy, credit card purchasing policies, money handling and petty cash policies. We have investment policies, a fund balance policy, identity protection policy, and we also had a social media policy. We had a sexual harassment by elected official policy. And we also approved a flat grant for our general assistance funds. These written resolution and ordinance were approximately 40 years overdue. We have also passed resolutions and partnerships with these local organizations: CSC, Community Service Council, H2O, Heart Haven Outreach, Operation Christmas, Camp Katakani, the Heart Organization, Trojan Football, Hazel House Thanksgiving Baskets, and Hazel House Employment Readiness Program. We now have a senior committee, a youth committee, social services committee, and a buildings, assets, and grounds committee. These committees meet once a month. The committee members are township residents, and we value their opinions and how they would like the township dollars to be spent. Last month, I was questioned and voted no for a grant request for over $77,000. My reasoning behind my vote was we just approved a grant a few months ago for a job readiness program for $4,000. I would like to see some results before I vote to give another organization $77,000 for 10 trainings. In closing, I plan to keep this train on track. For the township, we are back on track, and I plan to keep this train on track. Thank you. Action items A. Acceptance of the clerk council hourly resignation effective immediately. Can I have a motion to accept the clerk's resignation?
So moved. About time.
Burgess, motion. Can I have a second? Supervisor George, second. Any discussion?
can you share any information? The only thing that we see, well, that we received was a one-line memo.
Yeah, that's what she sent me, an email. And I sent an email to all the trustees. And that's all she said. The email was in your packet. Let's see. I don't know if I have it here. It was Wednesday, the 10th. She turned in a resignation. And she brought the keys back to the office, and she said, that's it. That's all I can say. Trustee Benford, that's all I know.
Did you have an opportunity to speak with her? Have you followed up with her?
No. She said that's and she doesn't want to have any discussion with anyone.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that, please?
She said she doesn't want to have any discussion with anyone.
Okay.
That's it for her, she said. I was trying to find the letter here.
I'm sure we all seen the email. I saw it.
Trustee Raga, what you said?
I said, I'm sure we all seen the email. If you sent the email, I've seen it. So I'm sure we all seen it.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga?
Yes.
Trustee Benford? Trustee Benford?
Are you?
Benford?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Wood?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Item D, approval of ordinance 21-02, an ordinance correcting the scrivener's error in the tax levy ordinance 20-23 of the Page Township. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Trustee Burgess? Can I have a second? Supervisor George, second. Discussion?
Yes. Amy, I need to share my screen. Supervisor George, I know that I had asked, Trustee Burgess said at the last meeting that he actually requested that you handle this matter. So I guess my first question to you is, have you had an opportunity to speak with Mary Dixon, the attorney that represented us with the lawsuits that were filed?
No, I didn't have any time to talk to Ray Dixon. She has been in contact with Russ Eckler on legal advice.
Okay.
Memorandum from his office explaining to us what we need to do with the scrivener's error. And so therefore, there's a resolution. That's what we're voting on right now.
Okay.
If you have any questions, maybe Ross can answer you.
No, my questions are actually for you. I'm not speaking to Ross, I'm speaking to you right now. Amy, I need to share my screen if possible, please. So my questions for you, because, and the reason that I'm asking these questions in this open meeting is following our December meeting, you and I actually had a meeting scheduled for that Friday. And I know you ended up having an emergency or I believe something with your daughter. And I have been trying to meet with you ever since that meeting that day. And I have not had the ability to meet with you. And there were reasons that I wanted to meet with you. And one of those reasons is because you actually had me working with Mary Dixon in regards to that levy. And there were some things that I wanted to share with you about the levy prior to sharing it with the board. But since you have not made any opportunity to meet with me, I figured I'm going to just share it with the board at this time. So since we are at a point where we have an opportunity to make a correction to this particular levy, I will share with the board what I found out from Mary Dixon following our December meeting, because I want to make sure that the entire board is aware of what I know. Okay. So you and I were scheduled to meet on December 18th at 4 p.m. That meeting has still not occurred. There were some things that the board was not made aware of in December prior to voting on that levy. Mary Dixon was a legal counsel that handled our tax objection lawsuit for 2016, 17, 18, and is currently handling the lawsuit for 2019. What I now know is that she had already advised, and this is why I wanted to meet with you, because Mary Dixon was going to tell you this one-on-one, that she had already advised the township that we were already at 2.2 times our average expenditures even before a levy was issued for this year. And she had agreed to adjust the memo that she had issued to the board to take the confidential attorney-client privilege off of it. And she was willing to rewrite it because I had asked at our December meeting that this memo be made public, because the public has a right to know, considering we have been involved in 4 lawsuits at this point. I had also explained to her some of the new developments regarding the levy calculation that I actually didn't realize until right before the meeting. And I wanted her to explain this to you one-on-one, because the general assistance fund is 100% your responsibility. And she was willing to speak with you one-on-one, but you and I haven't met. So I'm again trying to relay this information to you because you have not met with her. So you're not aware of any of this information. Okay. So here is some things that I want to bring to your attention. Some of her comments, and I will read this. This is verbatim. Of concern to Trustee Benford is litigation pending over the past several years relative to the General Assistance Fund. The excess accumulation of funds in the General Assistance Fund, which is not allowed by law. Illinois law may not accumulate an excess amount in its treasury, as this is against public policy. Review of information provided by the township establishes that the township has previously levied for new funds for general assistance in years when it has had sufficient funds already on hand to meet the demands of general assistance. The memo that she provided to this board in December laid out 3 steps to determine the amount of money that will be needed to operate during the coming year, to determine how much it has on hand already to meet the financial needs of the fund, and to review the fund balance policy. And I had a sidebar for Trustee Oliver, but she hasn't been around for the past couple of meetings. I wanted to make sure that she was aware that an employee had misrepresented to her in an email that Ross Seckler had written the fund balance policy, when actually it wasn't Ross that wrote that fund balance policy, because she seems to think that employees don't tell her misrepresentations. But anyway, What I want to point out to you, Supervisor, because remember, you are the one responsible for the General Assistance Fund. The board is only considering step one, and that is why we are continuing to get sued. So we have an opportunity to fix this. And I am bringing this back to the board's attention, and I put a PowerPoint together again because we have 4 lawsuits. We are now going to get sued for your first year in office. So your train is not on track, Supervisor. As much as you may think it is not. Step one, what I understand, we're assuming that we are going to need approximately $400 for the next fiscal year for general assistance.
I'm reading the memo from.
I can't hear you.
I'm reading the memo from Mary Dixon. And she said, after many conversations, I do not believe it is proper to provide a recommendation relative to the amount of
George,
levy.
I actually have the
This
floor
is
right
not
now.
a legal decision. Rather, it is a financial decision to be made by the board.
On analysis of the fund, right, of the existing fund.
So she's not making a recommendation.
Right, but if you read the very next paragraph, she explains the 3 steps that I'm outlining to you right now. So continue reading. The next paragraph I just broke it out here so that the whole board can understand what I'm explaining. And this was the memo that I had asked you make public in December. So I'm fine that you're reading it because the public needs to know. So I'm glad we're actually having this dialogue right now. So continue reading the very next paragraph. I can't hear you.
You can continue to read if you want to.
Okay, so step one, it says approximately, we're assuming that we need 400,000 for the fiscal year for general assistance. Step 2 is that we currently figure out what we have on hand. Until we do that, we will always continue to over levy, which is why we have been sued for the past 4 years. Looking at our financials year to date as of December 31st, we already had $311,000 on hand. I don't have the financials as of January 31st, but let's just say for the sake of argument, I'm pretty sure we didn't spend another $100,000 in 1 month. So if we only need 400,000, levying for another 300,000 is going to cause another lawsuit. You can go back and look at our board meeting from 2 years ago. I'm repeating exactly what I said, and we've been sued. So I'm just trying to stop the cycle of lawsuits is all I'm doing. Step 3, which is what Mary said in that same paragraph, that second paragraph, is that we also need to take a look at what our fund balance policy states. And so I listed that there as well. So the next slide, if you can see it, it shows what we had on hand in December, which was already $300,000. So my question to you is, if we have anywhere between 250,000 and 300,000 right now in general assistance, I don't understand, one, why we are levying for another 300,000 because we will get sued. Mary Dixon didn't even understand why we were levying for 300,000 when I informed her of that after our December meeting.
I'd like to hear from Mary.
And 3 years later, nobody still can answer my question of what is the maximum amount that we should be levying right now. I know what that amount is because I've done the calculation. So if we're going to fix this, we have to fix it anyway because something has been filed that this board didn't approve. We might as well fix it right and not incur another lawsuit and more legal fees. We've been sued 4 times. We're already going to be sued for our year ending March 31st, 2020. Why get sued for another year if we can fix it?
Okay, as you finish, the levy has already been filed with the county, and we presented a scrivener's error, ordinance 2102. If there's no discussion, I'd like to have a roll call, please, to accept the scrivener's error. Item B.
Trustee Raga. Trustee Raga.
What are we voting on? I can barely hear the supervisor, so I don't.
Item B on the agenda. Approval of ordinance 21-02.
Trustee Raga.
No.
Trustee Benford.
No.
Yes.
Supervisor George.
Yes. Okay. Item C, approval of ordinance 21-03. Transfer of appropriation for budget year 2020, 2021. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Burgess. Second. Supervisor George, second. Any discussion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga.
No.
Trustee Benford.
No.
Trustee Burgess.
Yes.
Supervisor George.
Yes. Item D, approval of resolution 21-04. Resolution approving an agreement for the provision of services between DuPage Township and the Heart Organization for the township fiscal year 2021, 2022.
So moved.
Trustee Benford, motion. Second.
Second.
Trustee Raga. Any discussion?
I would like to ask you a question, Supervisor George, although I'm not sure if you'll answer it. I know at our Social Services Committee meeting, you had given Dr. Ingram one reason as to why his grant had not been considered. And then at the board meeting, you gave him a different reason. And now I was under the impression that last month that you were not going to move his application forward to the board. So I was just wondering what changed your mind. If you feel like, if you feel comfortable sharing it with the board.
At that time, this was his second application, and I wanted to wait to see if any other organization would be applying for a grant. So I told him we have to wait to see. And I know his organization has having some difficulty in getting funds because of COVID. And we had given $6,000 before, and now I'm recommending $4,000 so to help him through the COVID period. And next month, March, will be our last month of the budget year. Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
trustee Benford,
I'm sorry, are you calling me? I can't.
trustee Benford,
We're doing a roll call, Trustee Benford.
I can't, are you calling me? There's so much background.
trustee Benford,
Yes,
trustee Burgess,
Yes.
supervisor George.
Yes. Motion carried. The next one, item E, approval of resolution 21-05, a resolution approving an agreement for the provision of services between DuPage Township and the Hampton Park Social Athletic Club. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Burgess, can I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Raga? Any discussion? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
trustee Benford,
yes,
trustee Burgess,
Yes.
supervisor George.
Yes. Motion carried. Item F, approval of resolution 21-06, a resolution approving an agreement for the provision of services between DuPage Township and the Heart Organization H2O. Can I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Burgess, trustee Rogers? Any discussion? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
trustee Benford,
yes,
trustee Burgess,
Yes.
George.
Yes. Motion carried. The next item is audit of bills and claims. Approval of township bills and claims for January 15, 21 through February 11, 21, in the amount of $76,690.87. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Trustee Burgess, second. Can I have a second? Supervisor George, second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Raga,
Yes.
trustee Benford,
yes,
trustee Burgess, trustee Burgess,
Yes.
Yes. Okay, item new business. A presentation by ABC Community Builders, a discussion about proposed grant application. Any discussion?
Yes, Amy, can I share my screen again, please? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify a few of the false statements that I've seen floating around today on social media. First off, the program is actually not for 10 individuals, it is for 20. I know the grant application packet that we gave out to the board, gave that out, I believe it was in December. This is for, and they were on our call in December when I believe 2 trustees hung up before the presentation and they had a PowerPoint. When they were on last month, they weren't able to show their whole presentation. Because one member could not stay on. So, but the board did actually receive an entire packet, I believe it was back in December, that talked about what this program is actually about. I believe Trustee Burgess had asked a question last month. He was asking it what other townships they work with. At this point, they do not work with any other townships. We would be the very first township to launch this program. So we would be a leader in the cause. A job training program is not illegal for townships. That was another lie that floated on social media. And because I was able to actually introduce them to the township officials of Illinois, township officials of Illinois are now introducing this organization to other townships. So they will be able to introduce this particular program to other townships. This is not the same job training program that we introduced before. This is something totally different. It is a skilled labor job training program that teaches individuals carpentry, how to be an electrician, HVAC, and it's a 12-week program. And then they are able to go back and get licensed to do additional services as well. They can also go on to become union labor workers if they choose to. The total cost for the program for one individual, if you take that cost and divide it by 20 individuals, is less than $4,000 a person. And we also receive letters of commitment from, I believe it was over 25 employers within DuPage County and Will County. This is a program that has been around for a while, and they normally work with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and other municipalities. So when they have formed what's called a community partnership with local churches, the community partnership, the church is then responsible for helping them find participants. Because we are a township, we typically have people coming to us that are out of work. So our version of the community partnership was we were able to find a church that was able to help us get reduced rent, which helped to offset the cost. That was the community partnership portion of our grant, was to be able to find a location that would offer it at a reduced cost. So when as I'm sure other elected officials are out speaking, most constituents are looking for preventive programs, such as the Heart Organization. Preventive programs, instead of programs where we are, when we have to use the police force or individuals are incarcerated, it costs a lot more of your tax dollars. So if you were to look at a program like this that costs possibly less than $40 per hour for a person to complete, as opposed to incarcerating someone that costs a lot more. This is a preventive program teaching someone a job skill. It costs a lot less of your tax dollars. So this is a program that we would have been able to be a leader in the industry and offering jobs, at least 20 jobs to people in our township at a time where people are out of jobs due to COVID, and for the amount of less than what we have to pay to constantly settle lawsuits. So we are spending the money on legal fees and lawsuits, and we could be spending it on the residents of the township. But again, the speech that Supervisor George gave at the beginning was fabulous. It would be even more fabulous if we would have been able to use that money for the residents of this township. This entire packet was given to the board back in December, and now it makes sense because the person that was posting on social media mentioned 10 participants. This packet I know only went to the board, so now I can connect the dots. It's actually 20 participants. And one of the other schedules embedded in here is the budget, where I had actually worked with ABC to up the number of participants in order to keep the costs down for the township and be able to provide this service to even more residents of the township. Pastor Corey Brooks also wrote a glowing letter of reference for this program. He's in charge of an organization called Project Hood. And so there's been more than 180 people that have gone through the program. But because I knew that we couldn't even come together as a board and have a signature program to help the people in the community, I've also been trying to work with Fifth Third Bank to help offset the costs, because I know that they have community redevelopment grants. So the only thing Trustee Raga and I wanted to do was have the opportunity to represent the constituents that voted for us. We only wanted to get this item placed on the agenda the way that we asked for it, so that we would have, this board could at least have a fair opportunity to make a decision if you really wanted to consider it. Fifth Third Bank was even willing to consider helping partner with us. I gave this to the board back on December 9th. You can see I gave them a whole packet. I said, reach out to us if you have any questions. Trustee Raga nor I ever received not one question from one board member, but all over Facebook today, somebody in Florida was spreading every lie known to man, and we still have people in this township that has needs. We still have a budget here that, as you will see, will have a surplus of over $1 million, and will now probably draw 2 lawsuits in our town fund and in our general assistance fund. And now with the levy that just got approved, that, a lawsuit again is inevitable. Supervisor George probably won't share this with you, but when he was appointed, I met with him and I said to Supervisor George, we have an excess of funds. If you are not going to be diligent and figure out how to spend those funds, you need to give that money back to the taxpayers. He has done nothing to do any of the things that I told him would be in the best interest of the taxpayers. Lockport Township just gave funds back to the taxpayers. He has not done any of those things. We haven't given the funds back. We haven't used them for the taxpayers.
How much?
So those are some of the things that I thought we might be able to do to help fix this and at least do something to make things right before the end of this term. And again, that was why Trustee Raga and I asked for one simple thing: to have this item placed on the agenda the way that we requested.
In the
So
board.
that's my presentation for the ABC Community Builders. We'll ask for it again next month. We'll see if we can get our request granted to have the item placed on the agenda the way we asked for it.
Trustee Benford, on the presentation, on the personnel, you still say $7,000 per training. The presentation you just made, you said on the personnel, it said $7,000 per training. Is that correct?
I can barely hear you, Supervisor George.
under the presentation for the community builders, you indicated that it's going to be 4,000 per individual. But on the presentation you made, I was just reading on the personnel, it said 7,000, which is correct.
The cost would be $38.50 per individual.
No, the presentation you just made on the personnel, it said 7,000.
I cannot understand what you're saying, Supervisor George.
The presentation you just made on the personnel, it said $7,000.
Do you want me to pull the screen back up for
Yes.
you?
I have a simple question. I looked at your minutes. Did your committee ever vote on this?
Our committee is an advisory committee. We actually never vote on any of the grant applications we receive. The only one we voted on, Trustee Burgess, was the one that came back to our committee for Hazel House. And we voted on that one only on the advice of our legal counsel. Our committee never votes on any of the grant applications. We only we listen to the presentations. We give the supervisor our feedback, and then they go on to the board.
So no, you didn't vote on it.
We do not vote on any grant applications. I'm trying to find the budget page. What is your question for me, Supervisor George?
On the personnel, it said $7,000.
Right, I explained that their grant application does say 10 individuals, but there is a budget worksheet on there that has the correct number on there because I asked them to increase the number of participants so that we could lower the per person cost. And that is an average because it assumes that each individual will need childcare. It assumes each individual will need transportation costs or a bus card. But that doesn't mean that every single individual will need those costs. And we also were working on a donor for PPE equipment. So we were working on potential donors as well to help offset some of the cost as well.
Okay, thank you.
So the cost could have actually been even lower than the amount that was on the original request per person.
Okay, thank you. Can we move on to the next item? Reports from administrative staff and contractors. A, legal report, Township Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I will, just a couple items to note for tonight. It's nice to be back with everyone, all via Zoom. Just some things to consider is that it seems like it was, to me, it seems like it was just yesterday, but the annual town meeting is actually approaching in terms of planning and what is required to be done for that. And I know it's February still, but we do want to start to put that on our radar just because given everything that's going on with COVID-wise and wanting to plan accordingly, hopefully by April, we will be in a situation where we could hold the annual town meeting in some form, or at least the 2021 one, the 2021 meeting. And it's something just to be considering as the board should start considering and how it wants to deal with this. What's a weird thing is that the 2020, everyone's got postponed essentially, everyone, but ours did, we postponed it according to the law. And so we would need a health certification, health department certification in order to be able to hold it. And so, but for the 2021 one, we don't need that. We just, you have the option to postpone it. You don't have to. So it's just things to consider and how to do that in an effective and safe way. But it will take some time and planning, even though this situation is constantly changing, but something to start thinking about how to plan. And if we want to hold that as planned, potentially just adopting and incorporating the entire agenda from the 2020 meeting into the 2020-21 meeting, something like that. Then additionally, our office, I'm sure, will be assisting in any transition with the clerk's office. And just so the board and everyone knows, I ran it quickly. I think there's a few days. We're going to have a little bit of a gap in time between when 60, if it's 60 days, if there's a vacancy now for 60 days, so kind of what happens, and between the election in April and then when everyone takes office in May, the election were covered in the 60 days versus in May. There would have to be some sort of special town meeting, which again is difficult anyway. So it's just something to consider, potentially waiting till after the election, but then appointing someone to fill that time, if there is enough time to even, it's like a couple weeks to fill that vacancy. It's up to the board to fill the vacancy. If, yes, of course, if the board wants to fill that vacancy earlier, that's something that the board is absolutely entitled to do as well. So I'm happy to assist or answer any questions, but at this point, that would be the end of my report.
Thank you, Russ. I can read the assistant to the supervisor report. Senior report.
Hi. My name is Lynn Woodard. I am a senior director here at the Levy Center. And my report will tell you that our small groups are once again meeting daily to gather for their regular programs such as exercising, line dancing, and ceramics and sewing and vocal and things like that. Of course, everybody's socially distanced. They do wear their masks. We take temperatures at the front desk and have sanitation station as they walk through the door. We also have transportation available for seniors that need to go shopping. We're able to get them back on the bus and socially distanced. We are having meals delivered to those that are unable to get out. We've begun our tax season with AARP, and that filled up quite quickly with a waiting list as well. We have 3 people working with our seniors, and they've created it in a different manner this year, where they used to come in and do it, you know, and everybody would sit in the front and you would just wait to get called downstairs. This year, they are having them bring in their paperwork, drop it off, and then they will do it themselves, the tax aides, and then give them a day to return so that they just have to sign for it and take their taxes and go. So it's in a much different scenario this year, but we are still one of the few townships that is offering that AARP is working with. So we're grateful for this, and so are they, the seniors. We're also currently on the list to receive COVID-19 vaccines. I've been working with OSCO, and they've been in touch with their corporate office. I've asked for 1,000 vaccines to not only vaccinate our seniors, but other individuals in the township. Only chances certain amount and they don't want to come out to a actual hosting site. You know, we're looking to be a hosting site here, so I was in touch with them again today. I'm hopeful that this will happen sooner than later. They give me reason to be encouraged, so I'm hoping for that. And then I'm also happy to report that I'm able to take them out again now that they have restaurants that are opened up and bigger groups that are, you know, able to gather. And so I'm able to schedule outings for them, and they're very excited about that because they are pretty bored sitting at home. They get lonely, and they want to get out and communicate with each other and just enjoy each other's company. So I hope that we are on the road to recovery with all of this and that things can get back to some type of normalcy. And we'll just have to see about that. That's the end of my report.
Thanks, man.
You bet.
Senior report, Maureen report.
Maureen's on vacation. She's in Mexico.
Food pantry report, David Hawk. General assistant report, Kimberly Owens.
Yeah, I moved her over. Kim, you need to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. General Assistance continues to keep busy, getting a lot of applications for our Will County Center for Community Concerns with help with ComEd and NICOR bills. We're also seeing a lot of water bills that are coming in. Just recently seen a nice flow of families coming in that are needing assistance with rent or their mortgage. So that actually continues. The flow is going pretty well since we've opened up our doors. I don't see a lot of people that really want to come in, but there are some people that are, taking that initiative to come in. A lot of people are calling before they come in just to find out, how we're handling the protocol of the pandemic. As far as social services, sitting on the committee, we do have 2 dates that we're going to do a drive-through food pantry. I want to welcome any volunteers to come out. We are looking for some volunteers to help. Our first one will be on Wednesday, February the 24th. We will be taking a drive-through food pantry to Riverstone Community. We will be there from 5 to 6. Also, we're going to be doing another drive-through food pantry Monday, March 1st, and we'll be at the Promenade Apartments. That again will be from 5 to 6. If anybody is willing to volunteer, please email myself at kowens@DuPageTownship.com or Tracy Odom at todom@DuPageTownship.com. I also want to just add one other thing. Oversight on my part with funds that were allocated and that were approved. So I am open right now to take emails or phone calls for any families that are in need of coats, for whether they're the adult or children. So if they want to give me a call, I'm more than welcome to do that. I'm taking calls as of today. I did reach out to a few families that I know that need coats and to some of the social services departments at the Valley View School District. And if anyone knows that anyone that needs a coat, please have them give me a call. And that concludes my report for today.
Thanks, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Thank you, Supervisor George.
Report, Amy Albright.
Good evening. We have received our $10,000 Will County CARES grant. We have also been approved for $901 for the safety grant from Illinois Public Risk Fund. We're just awaiting those funds to come in. Tomorrow, I meet with our Illinois Public Risk Fund rep to complete our workers' compensation audit. The yearly mandatory sexual harassment training has been assigned to all employees and recommended for all of the elected officials as well to be completed by the end of the month. I'm still waiting on quotes for repairs to the fencing at Alexander Cemetery from the accident that happened there so that we can submit that to our insurance company. And the records disposal certificate that I submitted to the state has been approved, and those approved documents will be destroyed via a shredding company this Thursday. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Denise. Next report, Kelly Rosado. Elected officials and advisory committee reports. Assessor.
Hi, this is Jean Kelly with the assessor report. The assessor budget was turned into the board at the end of January per the state statutes. We are working on the sales ratio study for the 2021 assessments. If you would like us to review your assessment, now is the time. There's a form on our website called Assessment Review that you can fill out and return anytime between now and July 31st. If you know of anyone turning 65 this year, remind them to come in for their senior exemption. Also, if you know of a veteran with a service-connected disability, there is an exemption for them as well. All the forms are on our website, DuPage-TownshipAssessor.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee report, Alicia Benford.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I have the Social Services Committee report. Kim actually took care of most of the announcements there and our events that we have coming up. I do want to make everybody aware that one of our committee members, Kim Johnson, her father passed away yesterday, and just offering her our condolences and lifting her family up in prayer. We had our Social Services Committee meeting February 1st, and our next one is coming up first Monday, March 1st. Next Accounting and Auditing Committee meeting is February the 22nd. And the last item I wanted to address earlier today, I received an email actually at about 3:45 today, received a letter from a Mr. Martsky regarding the ballot lottery that was held on January 27th, approximately 3 weeks ago. Mr. Martsky, and in the past, you've written to this board, and I've always responded to you in writing. One response I took 3 hours to draft, as I wanted to ensure I addressed all of your concerns. I want to make sure everyone understands why I am responding to you in our public meeting tonight. The last time I attempted to respond to one of your concerns was August 2019 while I was on vacation. I actually emailed you from my personal email, and I apologize for the delay in calling you. I told you in that email that the reason I was sending it from my personal email was because my son's friend had just committed suicide and that I needed a day or so to help my son. I called you the following day, and you told me that you received my email, and you told me to never call you again. And so I honored your wishes. Therefore, I'm responding to you tonight in this public meeting, and I won't respond to you in any other way other than in public. The ballot lottery notice was posted on the township building on December 30th. You came over to the township on Monday, January 4th to attend the Social Services Committee meeting. Therefore, you saw the notice posted on the door of the building a week before I saw the notice. Also, the final page of the caucus guide lists the important dates. The final date listed is the ballot certification, which was listed as January 28th. I received notice of the lottery from the notice on the building, as nothing was mailed to me either per the guide. The afternoon of January 27th, I sent an email to the township clerk and the township attorney inquiring if a notice had been mailed to my party chairman and informing them that there was nothing on the notice regarding any Zoom information listed on the notice that was on the building. This is not my responsibility, as I'm simply a candidate on the ballot as you were as well, Mr. Martsky. I did not receive a response to my email, and on the advice of my legal counsel, I proceeded over to the township. You are correct, Mr. Martsky. Supervisor George was at the township, and he was aware that the lottery was being held. Supervisor George, I believe, was fully aware of what needed to be done, because I'm assuming that he was copied on any emails that the township attorney sent to the clerk with instructions, probably in November or December, regarding how to conduct the ballot lottery. So if you are seeking an apology from someone, maybe you should seek that apology from Supervisor George, given that he was the only person who was 100% aware of what should have occurred absent the township legal counsel on January 27th. He was also not a candidate on the ballot or anything at that time. I most certainly was not going to do anything at all to interfere with any election process. When I realized that no one was at the township and recording the ballot lottery, I actually recorded that on my personal cell phone as a private citizen, and I voluntarily emailed a copy of the video to the township clerk. So I took offense to you calling me crass in previous emails when I simply have tried to always respond to your concerns. And I take offense now to you and all of the false allegations in your letter today. The only thing I am guilty of is reading the ballot lottery notification on the door that had been posted since December 30th of 2020 and reading the state caucus guide. Remember, you saw the notice on the door an entire week before I did. Mr. Martsky, I understand that things may be a bit confusing for you, given that the slate packet that was submitted for candidates was improperly submitted by you. The rules require that the packet be submitted by your township chair. And I believe you were actually the person that submitted the packet for your party. Therefore, if you fail to read that ballot lottery notice again, that's not my fault either. Your party's failure to properly read the caucus guide and then demand actions that are not allowed by law is not only illegal and unethical, you were the only one that did that. Your party then bullied and forced our township clerk to resign, sending repeated emails demanding a letter of apology from her. If you want an apology and a resignation, you should request it from the one responsible for giving it to you, Supervisor George, because my party chair also didn't receive a notice in the mail either. If this is how you plan to behave as a township supervisor, then maybe you should reconsider your decisions to run for public office, especially since you knowingly participated in an illegal meeting on December 4th, 2020. And after I pointed out that it was an illegal meeting, you did nothing to stop it. As a matter of fact, you made public comments regarding my statements made about the meeting being an illegal meeting. Mr. Martsky, you have to be able to stand up for the residents, even when illegal acts are being committed by members of your own political party. Your attorney friend, Joe Giamanco, he filed a lawsuit against DuPage Township for far less than the one I was forced to file recently when you sat and participated in an illegal meeting, forcing Trustee Raga and I to file a lawsuit against the township. So I'm going to ask you to please ensure that you have the facts straight before you send any more communication to me with any false allegations. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Trustee Burgess?
Wow, hard to follow that campaign speech. No report.
Trustee Raga? Trustee?
Yeah, I would just like to say, we have our buildings committee meeting this following Thursday coming up. Anybody wants to attend, more than welcome. That's all I got. Thank you.
The next item is public comments. Invitation to speak on any issue on the agenda or anything regarding township government. Limit to 1 3-minute comment per person. Any public comments? Can you hear me? Yes. First of all, I have a question for township attorney, and that is, what is the limitation that the present board has to cover the next board? We're 50 days from the next election, and another 20 or 30 days from taking office. And I see a lot of contracts that people are proposing and spending very large sums of money. And this is from the 2021 to 2022 budget. And so the question is what, to Mr. Sedgwick, what is the authority of the board to encumber the next board coming in? Secondly, I hear a lot of talk about surplus money. Okay, the township like this surplus, and this surplus. Just because we have surplus money doesn't mean we have to spend it, especially if we don't know what we're spending it on. Okay. And the last item I have is I'd like to suggest that the township put a time limit on trustees' fees. Because if you did that, these meetings would probably cut in half, especially with Ms. Benford's rants and raves. Because I couldn't even hear half of what she said. But I know it went on for over 10 minutes. And of course, I only have 3 minutes. So thank you. Oh, and one other thing. The towns up here are supposed to be about the township, not politics. My name is Monty Leonard. One of these letters I got George Pearson, Chair of the Will County Republican Civic Committee. The Democrat candidate for township supervisor submitted a letter lodging false allegations he is right with lies. The former township clerk failed to notify members of either party. However, the Republican Party did our due diligence and learned that the ballot lottery 7 days prior, because the former clerk posted said notice on the township building 30 days prior to the announced date. The Democrats failed to stay focused on the next steps. We studied the election law, sought legal counsel, and made the proper notifications to our candidates. We did not wait around for someone to tell us how to proceed. As chairman of the party, not receiving a mail notification. I then spoke with ASA Phil Mock with the Will County State's Attorney's Office about the failure to notify. Gary Marcy's uninformed comments and requests for an apology are misguided. Perhaps he should have consulted with his own counsel, who failed to file their objection in a timely manner. In fact, we were informed that the Democrat counsel stated, whenever incompetent public officials resign, it's a victory, so we will consider this resolved. The case was closed without an apology to either party. To blame the Republican candidates for being prepared and informed is childish and unprofessional. If this board sees fit to issue an apology, it owes both sides, as the Township General Counsel also pointed out. Perhaps Supervisor George should have taken a leadership position and made some notification instead of hiding in an adjacent room. This is why an entire new slate of Republicans are on the ballot to wash away the incompetent ways of the current administration. Sincerely, George Pearson, Chair of the Will County Republican Central Committee. Thank you. Any other comments? Supervisor George, trustees on the Zoom call, and I heard you hear this microphone is had trouble all night. I just want to thank you on behalf of Hurricane Outreach for your trust in what we're doing next door and with you in the township. The money that you're awarding us will make a big difference in their social and emotional needs that are going on right now. I just wanted to comment on how encouraging that section of the meeting tonight was, with the approval of grants for the art organization that's doing great work next door as well, and also with the Hampton Park Social Club. When I moved up here to Bolingbrook in this township was awarded years and years of excellence and awards from many different organizations. I know these last few years have been not of that same, but it seems like some decisions that were made tonight, but also just hearing from your staff, it makes sense that the hard work of the township is still being done, even though we might be hearing differently on social media or through emails or through even these board meetings at this time. So Glenn and Kimberly and those of you working with residents in this town, it's so great to hear the things that you're doing. I know how much it's making a difference, especially in such a challenging time. So I just want to thank the township for the hard work that you're doing, and again for the belief in these organizations tonight by granting this funding to help us to do this work alongside you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there any more public comment?
Yes.
Okay.
My turn.
Christine?
My turn?
Yes.
I just had a quick question. I don't know if it's if somebody's gonna be able to answer me or not. Maybe it's directed for Alicia.
Can you state your
And
name?
Christine Mayer.
Thank you.
And I know Alicia knows that I was excited about the ABC Community Builders situation, the grant. However, it is quite expensive. I was kind of curious though, if I know it's a nonprofit organization, and I was wondering if there is anybody that that she looked at, because I know she's the one that brought it to the township. Did she look at anybody that is somewhat closer? This is a national organization. So I was curious if she looked at anything that was closer. I know it's similar to Power Connection that used to be around. So I was wondering if it is something that was closer to home that maybe we can help somewhere in the surrounding communities instead of giving it to a national organization. That's all I had.
Did you want me to answer that, Supervisor George?
No other public comments. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Supervisor, there's one message here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Debbie Savage, and I wanted to just bring up that hopefully the DuPage Township residents know that at the Fountaindale Library on Mondays, the Will County Mobile Workforce Center is there to help look for finding jobs and other training. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Seeing none.
Our next item on the agenda, roll call to enter closed session.
Trustee Raga,
No. Motion to enter public, enter closed session. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to enter closed session? Is there a motion to enter closed session?
That's it.
Okay, there's none. Okay, the next step is, motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Trustee Burgess, you there second?
Second.
Trustee Benford, second. Roll call.
trustee Raga,
Yes.
trustee Benford,
Yes.
trustee Burgess,
Yes.
and supervisor George.
Yes. Motion adjourned. Motion to adjourn, 8:45.
8:49.